A really cheap tool, and some of you have heard me talk about it, are these friction reducing slide sheets. And I work with a company. They've given us a link to get a free sample at the end of the presentation here. So if you don't know about this, you got to try it. It's like a super awesome trash bag. So in the old days, that's what we used, right? For total knee replacements, getting people to move in bed a little bit more, we'd put those trash bags. These are fantastic tools. So by placing the friction reducing sheets under the torso, under the pelvis, under the feet, or under the knees, we can really create the ability for your patients to have movement. And you can get some pretty high intensity, high repetition movement in these stable positions. So just starting to get them moving, starting to get them breathing hard so that, and then safe where you're not lifting. So I'm going to show you, we've got under the trunk and pelvis, I call it the fish flop. We'll talk about lateral scoots. And so you'll see these in the next slide. But I wanted to kind of give you that list so you can go try some things. All right, so, okay, that is not, oh, there it is. Okay, so again, my husband, Jason, we're on the bed here on the plinth. And so I put this friction reducer underneath his torso, asking him to kind of dance side to side. Can he move his shoulders, giving him some cues? Here he's sliding his butt back and forth. You don't need much strength at all as the therapist or as the patient to make movement happen. And we all know rolling is horrible for our patients, right? So the friction reducer can allow the patients to roll in place, not get too close to that edge. And then we add some BlazePod fun for his rolling. So he's gonna roll in place. He's gonna grab, he looks thrilled, doesn't he? Grabbing the BlazePod for a little bit of engagement, making him move in certain directions, making that certainly more random. Okay, so more ways to think about using the friction reducers. So for my OT friends who are really thinking about these arms, I've got some cards up here you can see. And so Jason could be seated at the wall. That friction reducer could be on the affected side where he's having to hold it tight and then move it up and down. Or he could put it on the hand that's stronger, or I'm sorry, I mean, you could have it either way, right? You could have it either way. So you could be exercising and moving one side. You could be asking to stabilize on that side. Maybe you're stabilizing and now you're going to move it corner to corner to those different cards that are on the wall. And then I've got my student Cabrini here, and I put her on a wedge on her wheelchair to give her a little bit more weight bearing. And now she is moving that friction reducer, both hands on the wall. One of my favorite, and I didn't get a video, this is doing these kind of things. So moving kind of in that clock pattern, but also, can I just move the shoulders? Could I do kind of a diagonal hand over hand assist? Could I twist it? You know, so again, thinking about, and when you work those arms, right? When you work those arms, you're getting some heart rate work as well. Why the bolster in front? Patricia was asking. So if you've ever, when you work with lower level patients, sometimes I'll put that bolster in front. So if they do lose their balance forward, we're not crashing right into the wall. And it's just a habit of mine to put something between the legs for tone and for that wide base of support, that external cue. The other thing is that you could use that bolster for different hand placement. So if I think I'm ready, like maybe I want Jason to weight bear on his affected side, and I'm going to have him move that bolster with the other side, or vice versa. He puts that affected hand on the bolster, and then he starts to push it. It also gives a nice variety for the hands. Where can I put the hands? I can set them on there. If I've got tone or flexion, I could set them at the side. So it just gives a variety of different places to put the arms in that position. It's a great question. These ones right here, Shelby, are single use. Yeah, I'll tell you what though, like these green and yellow ones, these are two different companies. Like we just keep reusing them. You shouldn't in the hospital, like it should be one. These are all disposable, one use, but they last forever. So you could send them home with your patients. They really do last quite a long time. So here's a couple other ideas thinking about pre-transfer work or more dynamic work. putting those hands or elbows on the friction sheets, going side to side, getting some intensity, thinking about getting ready to move and transfer and maybe reach. You can go right on those elbows and just do some elbow work if you want to. Here the students are like whipping through this transfer, but here's how you might use this to start thinking about patients pushing and doing head to hip ratio. Now they've got their hands on one side. That is a really nice place to start when you're thinking about transfers, are bilateral pushes from one side. Can I even get the weight bearing through it on weights the side that you're going to? So I really like that technique. And I put in yellow here. You gotta be careful with these slide sheets at the edge of the bed. There are times when we want friction, and the time that we want friction is that the legs stay on the bed and the butt stays on the bed. So I just put a caveat here that just be really cautious if you're going to put these under people's pelvis, that you don't get the butt too close to the edge. I usually say about 6 inches. This is a little close for my liking, but I knew they weren't going to fall off we knew they weren't going to fall off the bed. So just some other ideas there. Now, if you can imagine, like if they kept doing this, let's do 20, or let's do this for a minute, you could count that. Do they get better? Can they get more reps? That's a lot of work. And for you, potentially a lot less work than sliding on their butt on a mat. Okay, I want to show you a real patient case because I have this. This is Jan. You're going to see her again in this video. So if you can remember how difficult, she was a brand new T10, had a spinal cord injury, traumatic spinal cord injury. She was a complete injury. And if you watch this, let's watch this one more time as she goes. You know, it takes her one little scoot, two little scoots, 3, 4, 5. She left her rehab unit, still wasn't able to do independent transfers. So this is what she really wanted to work on. So it took her 5 times. She is in a harness just to give her some safety. We didn't have to lift her. But then watch what happens when we add the friction sheet. 1, 2, 3. But you can see she's got more weight shift, more head to hip ratio. And so we worked with her for a couple weeks using the friction reducer. And then by the time she got so good, she could go back and forth like 5 times in a row at a rate of perceived exertion at 8. But then we started taking the friction reducer away and she could now slide. She had enough oomph and she got the gist of the head to hip ratio with that friction sheet, because she's not feeling it in this first video. Really hard for her to feel what she needed to do. And so I just think this is a beautiful testimony for helping people move earlier, move faster, so they can relearn that movement. But we'll see her again, and then you can see what her transfers look like. Okay, standing ideas with the friction reducer. So these are just tons of ideas where you can take someone at a wall and how you, and we've got some videos for here. So I'll show you some of these. So standing at a table counter with it, standing at the wall, and then standing in a corner, which is one of my favorite places. So here is a gentleman at the wall using it for his affected side. Here we're at the table and you can see she's pushing. I'm telling her, scrub that table. So push that table, push, scrub. And then I have to give kudos. This is Gavin. We had this low mobility lab. He came up with this brilliant idea that with the step stool. So he's turned a step stool over. I love this for an upper extremity work. And you can see that he's moving it in all directions. If he needed to, he could be putting his pelvis, we could have that a little bit higher, and he could be getting more support from the therapist. But just thinking about how we can move in these directions with less resistance and getting more reps in. So I love it. And then here we're pushing and pulling. So I've put a tub full of stuff and she's pushing and pulling. You can change the hand positions to challenge her. I make her go forward. I make her put her hand on top for different grips. So again, just some great ideas with the friction reducers. So the friction reducers allow the movement, but you can put resistance in the movement, which is pretty cool.